They say you can never truly know the person sleeping next to you. I used to think that was just something people said in movies, a cliché for people with trust issues. My wife, Sarah, was the most consistent person I knew. Coffee at 7, gym at 5, home by 6:30. But 3 months ago, Sarah started coming home on Tuesdays smelling like industrial bleach and cheap lemon floor wax. I didn't think she was cheating. Cheaters smell like expensive perfume or hotel soap. Sarah smelled like a hospital hallway. I thought she was hiding a debt. I thought she was working a second job to save our house. I wish that had been the truth, because what I found behind the door of that suburban ranch house at the end of the cul-de-sac, it didn't just break my heart, it broke my entire reality. Let's back up. I'm a freelance graphic designer. Sarah is a middle school teacher. We've been married for 4 years. She's the love of my life. When we met, Sarah told me she was a widow. Her first husband, Mark, had died in a tragic car accident 2 years before we met. She didn't like talking about it, too much trauma. I respected that. I never pushed. I just wanted to be her fresh start. But then the Tuesday routine started. Every Tuesday, she'd be 2 hours late. When she'd walk in, she'd look exhausted. She'd immediately jump in the shower, and that smell, that sharp, stinging scent of Lysol, would linger in the hallway. One night, I joked about it. I said, "Hey, are you moonlighting as a janitor? If we're broke, just tell me." Sarah froze. Her back was to me. She didn't laugh. She just said, "I'm just helping a friend with some deep cleaning, David. Don't be weird about it." She'd never called me David before. It was always Dave. That was the first red flag. I couldn't help it. The next Tuesday, I told her I had a late meeting. Instead, I sat in my car 2 blocks away from her school. At 3:30 p.m., she pulled out of the parking lot. I followed her. We drove 20 minutes into a neighborhood I didn't recognize. She pulled into the driveway of a modest, well-kept house. An elderly woman was waiting on the porch. She hugged Sarah, a long, tight hug. Then, Sarah took a bag of cleaning supplies out of her trunk and went inside. I sat there for 2 hours. I felt like a creep. I felt guilty. She's just helping an old lady, I told myself. But then a man pulled up. He looked to be in his 60s. He walked to the mailbox, grabbed the mail, and headed inside. I waited until Sarah left. After her car vanished around the corner, I did something stupid. I got out of my car. I walked up to that mailbox. I just wanted a name. The name on the mail wasn't Smith or Jones. It was Peterson. The same last name as Sarah's deceased husband, Mark. My head was spinning. I went home and did what anyone would do. I went into the attic. I found Sarah's memory box from her first marriage. I found the wedding photos. I looked at Mark Peterson. Then I looked at the man I'd seen at the mailbox. The resemblance was undeniable. Those were Mark's parents. But Sarah told me they had moved to Florida and cut ties after the accident. I kept digging. I went deep into Facebook. I found Mark's sister, and that's when I saw a post from only 3 weeks ago. It was a photo of a man in a hospital bed. The caption read, "Another year, another milestone. Mark is still fighting. Thank you to Sarah for being the only person who still visits him every week to help keep his room clean and his spirit up." Mark wasn't dead. He was in a long-term care facility 3 towns over. He had been in a vegetative state for 6 years. Sarah hadn't started fresh with me. She had lied about his death because she knew no man would want to marry a woman who spent every Tuesday afternoon scrubbing the floors of her brain-dead husband's parents' house and sitting by the bedside of a man who couldn't remember her name. I stayed in that hotel for 3 days. I didn't answer Sarah's calls. On the 4th day, I didn't go home. I went to the hospital. I went to see Mark Peterson. I told the nurses I was a distant cousin. When I walked into room 402, the smell hit me. It wasn't just bleach anymore. It was that sterile, heavy air of a place where time has stopped. Mark looked nothing like the photos. He was thin, gray, but on the bedside table there was a fresh vase of sunflowers and a small hand-knitted blanket. I looked at the visitor log. Sarah didn't just visit on Tuesdays. She'd been coming here for years, sometimes late at night, sometimes before work. But then, I saw a name on the medical proxy form that made my blood run cold. Sarah wasn't just his ex-wife or his friend. She was still his legal guardian. Our entire marriage, the taxes we filed, the house we bought, was a legal minefield because she never actually divorced him. I went home. Sarah was sitting on the porch. She looked like she hadn't slept in a week. I didn't even get out of the car. I rolled down the window and held up the visitor log I'd photographed. I asked her one question. Why didn't you just tell me the truth on our first date? She started shaking. She told me that the night of the accident, they had been arguing. She was the one driving. She walked away with a scratch. He never woke up. His parents blamed her, then they forgave her, but the condition was that she could never abandon him. I wanted to be a normal wife, Dave, she sobbed. I wanted to have a life where I wasn't the girl who broke Mark. When I met you, you looked at me like I was perfect. I couldn't let that go. I asked her, if he woke up tomorrow, would you leave me for him? The silence that followed was my answer. She didn't say no. She just looked at the ground and whispered, he's never waking up. That was 2 months ago. I filed for an annulment based on fraud. It's a mess. My lawyer says since she was still technically married to him, our marriage might not have even been legal in our state. I moved across the country. I needed to be somewhere where the air didn't smell like lemon floor wax. Sarah still sends me emails. She says Mark's condition is declining. She asks me to come back, saying she needs her rock now more than ever. But I realize now I wasn't her rock. I was her escape. I was the mask she wore to pretend her life hadn't ended on a rainy night 6 years ago. I saw a post from his sister yesterday. Mark passed away peacefully on a Tuesday afternoon. Sarah was there holding his hand. I didn't go to the funeral. I sent sunflowers, but I didn't sign the card. Some stories don't have a happy ending. Some stories just end. Thanks for following this journey with me. I'll see you in the next story.